Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on Fire Department Connections. My name is Cindy Jones with the NOX Company. Today, we are presenting FDC Locks, Values, Myths, and Implementation. Now, I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Deputy Fire Chief David Kerr. Chief Kerr currently serves as the Fire Marshal and Deputy Chief for Plano Fire Rescue. His experience includes municipal and industrial fire protection. He serves as an adjunct faculty member at the National Fire Academy and is currently involved in code development at the local, state, and national level. He is a member of several national fire service organizations and serves on numerous boards and commissions. We're going to start first with a brief introductory video now.
My name is Luis Rodriguez. I'm a fire captain.
Michael Haas. I am a captain for the Akron Fire Department.
I work for South Trail Fire District.
I'm a fire code enforcement officer.
FDC locks protect the fire department connection, which is what the fire department uses to pump water into a building to augment the sprinklers or the standpipes that help protect the building inside.
You pull up onto the building and you see an FDC connection that has a cap missing, has debris in it, a can, a rock. You know right away that you can't trust that fire protection system.
It's important to keep them capped and keep the caps on because people do put trash in there, and that prohibits the fire department from connecting to the system, which can clog the water system, and then they have no water to put out the fire.
There's no pressure. I'm getting nothing over here.
The NOX FDC lock protects the swivel and threads itself from damage, along with debris being stuffed inside, which can often cost thousands of dollars in damage or replacement of the system, along with maintenancing and backflushing.
The NOX FDC lock ensures that that system is operational and easily utilized in an emergency when we need it. The FDC locks are secured with a key wrench, and that key wrench is provided only to fire departments.
When removing the NOX FDC lock, go ahead and put the NOX key wrench into the keyhole and turn it, and it'll stop once fully open. Next, use the opposite end of the key wrench, and you'll do a quarter turn to the counterclockwise, and again, use your hand, and it'll release the NOX cap from the FDC connection. Water.
When we arrive and we see a NOX FDC lock, we can be assured that the system is going to function properly and save lives and protect property.
Fire prevention is the proactive side of the fire service that allows the addressing of emergencies before they happen.
Now for Chief Kerr.
Thank you all for tuning in today to a very important topic. Our fire sprinkler systems and how we're going to protect those. Looking at the fire department connection, and later on we'll take a little look at the standpipe connections as well. Well, we know from the video we saw a moment ago that a reliable water supply is very, very important to us. By having the right amount of pressure and the right amount of flow, we can ensure the sprinklers are going to always operate adequately, and also, more importantly, make sure that our standpipes are going to be there if we're manual firefighting as well. So what are some of the issues that we have? Well, some of the issues are unprotected or missing caps. We need to check the system and make sure there's not any debris in our FDCs. That's the most common thing we see. Look at the lower left-hand corner of your screen there. You can see the fire department connection going into the building. You see a Coke can jammed in there. When we try to flow into the system, it's going to restrict the water flow and maybe even possibly shut it off completely. One thing to remember is never stick your hand up in one of these FDCs to try to clear it out. There's been reports of people getting their hands cut with glass and metal cans, but more importantly, spent needles. So if you get a needle prick, then you're going to be tested, and that can be quite an ordeal for you as well. So the best thing to do is to back flush the system. Make sure the system is free of any kind of debris before you recap the system. Now, most commonly is just back flushing with water, where you reverse the check valve and the sprinkler contractor then flows water backwards through the system, making sure the system is swept clean before it's recapped. Technology is available out there where you may be able to use a camera. So cameras may be available for us in the future, or even some may have them now that you can run a camera up in the system to see if there's any debris in there. Either way, both of these are going to be costly to the building owner to have to either have a service call for backflushing or a service call for the camera technology. Backflushing can cost up to $1,500 per incident, and with that instance, we have to then replace the caps. If they're brass caps, if you're looking at that kind of cost, it's about $500 for one of those. Now, the caps on there doesn't mean you don't have to continue to inspect the system. Look at that center picture. That tree didn't grow up there overnight. And so you need to always inspect the exterior of the building, making sure that the fire department connection is, once it's capped, you can't just forget it and say, oh, it's good to go. Make sure there's not debris like trash cans or dumpsters or trees or bushes that are grown up to block your access to those FDCs. So what if we have an unlocked FDC? So the unlocked FDC is subject to trash and debris entry. We talked about that earlier in the video, as well as probably the most common thing you're going to see is the trash and debris in there. I'd encourage you to drive around and take a look at these things. You're going to find this is a common problem. People don't really know what these things are for. They just see them sitting out there. So they'll put Coke cans in there. They'll put, aluminum foil in there. They'll put their trash in there. They'll put cigarettes in there. You name it, it's been found inside these. Well, let's take a look at the whole list here. The right-hand side of the picture, we can see the little red circle there is going to show you that there's a rat's nest inside this one. So caps are missing, especially in the wintertime. It's a nice warm place inside the building, so they'll pack this thing full of stuff. And you look up in there and it looks dark. Well, that's because you think, oh, it's clear, but it could be packed full of stuff like this. So not only animals nest, but now let's look at the picture below that. Now below that, we have a problem in some parts of the country of freezing. So our freezing can be a problem. You see the red circle with the little yellow in the center there? That's showing you where the check valve is to your system. So we know on the left-hand side, there's going to be water on the left-hand side of that check valve. The right-hand side of the check valve is going to be clear. No, it's going to be just air. It'll be dry, so it won't freeze, obviously. Well, the FDC caps, if they're missing from there, then you get a good wind blowing up in that pipe, you're going to freeze that check valve. Now, it's not going to break. It takes a lot to freeze and break a 4-inch pipe. But you will get enough in there to freeze the check valve closed. So you may get a small ice block in there, and then now you won't be able to get the flow you need through there. So freezing is a problem with some of these. And you can't detect it. You can't see it. You don't really know, especially the closer that check valve is to the exterior wall. Well, what about damage to the couplings? You say, well, it's not a big deal that we got them opened up, but it is a big deal if those threads are damaged. So if someone has damaged those threads, or if there's trash and debris inside the thread, that can be a real problem as far as us being able to adequately, quickly hook up our hose. Also, that coupling, if it's bent, if it's damaged in any way, it doesn't take much of an egg shaping to that. And if it's not perfectly round, once again, your hose is not going to hook into the coupling. So that's a problem. Theft of the cap, we know about that, but now we're seeing theft of the coupling. So if you see where the little red dot is now, on the very top of that coupling is a small set screw. If I take that set screw out, I can now not only take the cap, but I can also now take the coupling, and now I've got the whole assembly, and now you can't hook up at all because there's nothing for you to hook your hose up to. Well, we talked about drugs earlier on, but what we're seeing now is that these are drug lockers. So you look at that bullet point there, drugs and spent needles, and what police departments are reporting around the country is that these are being used as drug lockers. So all I have to do is back up to one of these and slip a few baggies in the FDC and walk away, and a few minutes later someone walks by and takes the baggies out, slips an envelope in there, and I've had my exchange. Now, if the police department catches someone doing that, they can't prove it's their drugs or their money. You can just say, oh, I saw something sticking out. I was just curious, or oh, I saw an envelope in there. So again, it's very difficult to prosecute and prove that that really is your stuff in there. So again, a problem for us. But probably one of the more concerning ones in the future going forward is harm to the building. And we're talking about terrorist activities here. So we have obviously a heightened concern about this all around the country. We're hardening our buildings. We're hardening a lot of things. And so we're spending a lot of money on security to the doors and security to the facilities. But we all know that right inside that, on the other side of that wall is where all of our main utilities are. There's a 4-inch hole going right in the side of the building, open to the air, open to the public. On the other side of that wall, what's over there? Well, we know what's over there. That's where the utilities are. The gas, the electric, the water, everything it takes, the heart of that building is just on the other side of that wall. If I put a pipe bomb in there, I can take the building to its knees and never walk inside that building. So again, that's something that not only have we lost our fire protection system, but we've now got a potential damage to the entire building. If people are inside that building, then that means the elevators are gone. Everything is gone as far as it being able to be operational. You say, well, we got a backup generator. If that room is destroyed, then they can't transfer power from the generator to the building if the main electrical buses are blown out. So how can we solve this problem? Well, the NOX FDC lock is certainly the best thing that's out there right now as far as to simply protect this. It can only be unlocked by the fire department. So the fire department carries that special orange key you saw in the video. That special orange key key wrench allows the fire department to access these. Now, this is a universal key wrench. So it's not like your normal NOX box where there's a separate key for each individual city. We're not accessing the building. We're only accessing our system. Therefore, mutual aid companies can have these keys, and so it works very, very well for us. It protects, obviously, it protects the outlets from being stolen. It protects us from theft and damage. Make sure the debris doesn't get in the system we talked about earlier. And it makes sure that system, if needed, can be there for property and lives. And then you see the picture here of this. This one has a shroud on it, a cover that goes over and covers that swivel guard. So it makes sure that swivel guard is there to cover that coupling. So it's a NOX cap with a swivel guard to protect you from being able to take that set screw out and stealing the whole mechanism. So what's the value of having our system locked up? I think it's pretty clear, but we'll take a look at this, that the FDCs, you're going to know they're always clear ready for use. You don't have to doubt or wonder or say, gee, I wonder if this thing's going to work, or I hope there's not anything in there that's going to get pumped up in there and block the sprinklers or block my firefighters while they're up there using the standpipes. It makes sure our threads are always clean, they're clear, they're not compromised, they're not damaged. The threads then makes it very easy and quick for us to put our hose on. You don't have to try to get a wire brush and clean out the threads or anything like that. And there's no need to carry extra caps. I know some of you carry extra caps on here because you've had experience with where you have like 3 or 4 outlets on an FDC and all the caps are missing. You got a long lay. You've only got one lay from your engine to the FDC. So you hook up on one side of it. And then if that center clapper valve is not swinging right, that swing check valve is not working correctly, it doesn't seal against that opening, then you're going to have a leak in pressure and you're going to have water blowing back at you through the opening. So now you know you've always got that thing sealed, so you don't have to worry about that. If you have only have 1 or 2 hoses going into a 3 or 4 connection. So the locking FDC caps, it's going to reduce the maintenance cost, the overall cost of the system. So we know that systems have to be maintained. We know that NFPA 25 is going to require us to have the system tested and inspected periodically to make sure it's working. So that includes the whole system, not just what's internal, but this is a very, very important piece of the system. So again, we want to make sure that the debris is not there, and it is, get it out of there, make sure it's inspected. And if you look at that picture at the lower right-hand corner, we've got this is showing a yard hydrant. So we know there's sometimes we can't put FDCs on the exterior of the building, whether it's all glass or other reasons we need to have a remote FDC. So we got our fire department connection there, and you see the white pipe we're seeing is going to go down underneath the building and back into the check valve. We all know that's dry. And then on the left-hand side, we have our blue or our wet pipe, so we've got water there. But going back to the fire department connection, if that connection is sitting next to a bus stop or sitting next where people are gathered around a lot, there's going to be rocks and debris and cigarettes and all kinds of stuff that's just going to stack up in there and create a real problem for us. So the next question you may have is, how does this NOX FDC lock work anyway? How does this whole thing even operate? Well, this is just a simple locking mechanism that takes the inter threads and expands them outward and puts pressure against the coupling. So again, when you screw it on there, it screws on real easy. And as you crank it closed with the FDC, you tighten it up, it actually expands that out. So again, it creates a friction and you just can't open that cap up. So it utilizes this universal key wrench to unlock it. It's quick and easy to remove. You say, well, it's going to take more time. Well, we don't run on the fire ground. We've got time for this. If it's a sprinkler system, we've already got some water flowing in there. We're going to make sure I want to make sure the system is operating properly. So I've got the time it takes to make 5 to 10 half turns and the system's open. You saw in the video, it's a quick operation. That little bit of extra minute it takes to do that is well worth the peace of mind of knowing that the system is going to be reliable and ready to go at any time. So we haven't talked a lot about it yet, but also there's a storage connection. So we've got a locking storage connection for you as well. That's even more vulnerable because that's a big opening there. You got certainly a big opening if that thing's missing and stolen. Only about a quarter to half turn is all it takes to unlock these. And these have a lock and unlock indicator built into the face of that cap, so it's very easy to see. Another thing to remember is that when you think that this is taking some time to open, you're looking at 4 to 5 times faster than operating a fire hydrant. So your fire hydrant opens up, it takes about 18 to 20 rounds to open that fire hydrant up. So we've got plenty of time to get this cap open. This is not a real time killer for us. Remember, do not over tighten these when locking them up. So when you lock these things back up, they just need to be snug. Once it's on there, you can use the wrench and see if you can open it back up. But don't just crank it down as tight as you can because you won't be able to get it open very easily when it comes time for the need for it. These are shipped in the locked position, so someone has to install them. So the owner has to make sure the system is back flush, ready to go. So either the fire department or the service contractor will need to install these caps. So let's look at some of the myths that are out there. What are some of the myths that we may have seen? So there are people that say, well, I don't have a problem. Now, this is not my city. We don't have this problem. This is not my area. Have you taken an honest look? Drive around your city, and I guarantee you're going to find open FDCs. And if you get out and take a really close look, you're going to see stuff jammed in those FDCs. Now, looking at that lower left-hand picture, you're going to see there's an ice block there coming out of that FDC. Now, you see that one, you're going to see that. That means that there's a bigger problem going on here. Now we've got a leak of some kind in there to the point that I've got an ice block now being formed on the outside. I think the center picture is kind of funny. They want to make sure that their FDC is not missing, so they put a rubber band on that breakaway cap. I thought that was pretty entertaining. Again, that doesn't really give you a whole lot of protection, a whole lot of peace of mind there for you. So let's look at another myth or another problem that's been presented that says, oh, we can't do this. There's no reason to carry another tool. Well, if that other tool is lightweight, compact, fits in your coat pocket, and can guarantee you a good water supply, it's a firefighter life safety issue. This is a life safety tool. This is going to let you know with confidence that your system is fully functioning and ready to go. It's lightweight, it can fit in your coat pocket, and more importantly, there's no cost to you. These are free to the fire department, so ever how many you need, you can contact NOX and contact the regional account manager and get with them, and they can set you up with as many keys as your department needs. Well, this is one that's I just don't know how to operate the system. How does this work? It's just too complicated. It's too confusing. Well, as you saw, it's pretty simple. It is about as simple as it can get. 5 or 10 half turns and with the key wrench, and it's unlocked. The storage only takes about a half a turn, and it's unlocked. So again, it's pretty easy for that. But I would still say you want to have some training on these. You want to get with the NOX, with your regional account manager. They can arrange for you to have a device at your department that you can have a hands-on training. It just takes a few minutes, but once you're comfortable with how this thing operates, that gives your firefighters the confidence to know that this is not a difficult system. It's easy to manage, easy to operate, very easy for us to implement. I don't have time to install these caps. Well, that might be some departments may say, oh, I don't have the time for that. But there's options out there. You say, well, the fire department needs to lock these things up. Well, actually, the fire sprinkler company can lock it up at the time of the backflush or the time of new construction. We're trusting them to put a system in the entire building. We're trusting them that the system is going to operate correctly. We're trusting them that they're going to inspect it according to NFPA 25. You could probably trust them to install a couple of caps on the system, backflush it, and send you a note, let you know the system has been backflushed and is locked up and ready to go. So how do I justify the cost to the business owner? Well, public education is the best way. Business owners understand that they have systems all over their building that have to be maintained. There's not a system out there that's maintenance free. So maintenance is something that we need to have done to our systems. This is an important emergency operation tool. It's an important connection for them to have out there. For them to understand that this is not only for their protection, but for your protection, it's very important. It prevents, the replacement cost of the FDC. It certainly helps us from weather, vandalism, all the things we've talked about so far in here. But also, it's a savings to the business owner in the long run. The savings comes from not having to backflush the system. Every time I go out and do an inspection, I go, oh, your caps are missing again, and I can't guarantee there's not something in there. If I put a cap back on without backflushing or doing a camera sweep, then I've just entombed what might already be inside there. So that's a real dangerous thing. So again, once it's cleaned out and verified it's clean and it's capped, there's no more worries about it. It is a tight system now. So creating code takes time. Well, you know what? It's already in the code. So you don't have to amend the code. You don't have to do anything to the code at all. If you've adopted the International Fire Code or NFPA since 2006, you've been authorized to do this. So the code language is right here on the screen for you. It authorizes the fire code official to require locking fire department caps on water-based systems. So again, it allows you to do that. So again, no need to have to go back to council, no need to have to go back and amend any kind of codes out there. You've already got the authorization to do that. So what's new in 2018? Well, the 2018 code is coming out, and most of you know the 2018 IFC is out now, and it's now going to allow you to have a locking standpipe outlet cap. And so same similar language as you have on the FDC is that, and the same key wrench that unlocks the FDC will also unlock your standpipe outlet cap. So that's great. So now you've got that available to you, so you can now make sure that your outlets are protected as well as the inlet of the FDC. So we understand how standpipes work. We know that they're there for our manual fire suppression. Some building owners and some people think, well, I won't ever need this because I got sprinklers. Well, what if the sprinkler, what if your building's being remodeled and the 7th floor has been turned off for a remodel? A fire under construction on the 7th floor could occur. A manual firefight will have to take place at that. Well, let's look at this case study here. The one I've got on the screen here for you now, on the right-hand side of that picture, you can see, on the right-hand side, you see a picture there of a structure. And today's case scenario is going to involve a parking garage. So we've got a parking garage fire here. We've got a fire on the upper floor of that parking garage, and the firefighter has properly attached to the floor below, advanced their line up to the fire floor, and now they're beginning to, uh-oh, there's not much water coming out of there. What's going on here? We look down below on the left-hand side, there's a fire department connection there. And the pump operator says, I'm giving you all the water you need. I'm not getting any water. Well, last night, there was kids playing in the parking garage. And look what they did. They opened up all the valves on the lower floors. Those are not indicating valves, so even if you do an inspection, you can't look at that valve and see if it's open or closed. If they steal the caps off that dry valve, off that dry pipe system, and they see that dry standpipe, they take the caps off, they get bored, the no water came out, they run away. So now your options are, you have to run down, close all those valves, or hand lay advanced hose up the stairwell and splice into the firefighter. Let's look at what happened. So starting on the left-hand side, we see the valve there. You can see that's a non-indicating valve. We can't tell if that valve's open or closed. If that valve is open, there's debris that can be in there. If it's a dry standpipe that we're waiting for, if we're waiting to flush it like we would a wet one, we're going to be waiting for a while. The water to get there, flush it, and then hook up, we're wasting time. But that cap is on there. These threads are really, really subject to damage. So this is a male thread, so they're exposed to any kind of damage, anybody coming by, banging on them, any kind of thing like that. Any trash in here, guaranteed to go directly to your nozzle. So look at the outcome. The outcome was, we had to wait a long time for water. We've got multiple cars burned here. And now not only do we have the loss of the vehicles, we may have structural damage. We may have concrete spalling that's happened. We may have structural steel that may be warped. So we may have a really big problem here that could have been prevented if we could have got water there quicker. So the locking standpipe cap is a pretty simple, again, cap. Works just like the fire department FDC cap, only that now it's a NOX locking standpipe cap that allows you to protect that discharge from damage. Again, the same thing, 4 or 5 half turns, it's opened up. And as you can see, the firefighters are standing in that stairwell waiting for water, and the thick black smoke continues to go because they just don't have adequate water yet. So there may be other needs, other uses of this. We've found that some departments have had problems with water theft, vandalism of their fire hydrants. So the public water supply is something that could be vulnerable out there to us. And we know in the summertime, there's parts of the country where kids open hydrants and play in the street and turn the water on. And not only do we have a loss of water that somebody's got to pay for, that water that's flowing down the street is not going to be free, but we have inconsistent pressure. So now we've got a couple of hydrants open in the neighborhood, and a fire happens 2 blocks away. and it's like having a main break. That steamer up is the same as having a main break. You got a massive amount of water coming out and a massive loss of pressure. So implementation. You know, we talked earlier, a few slides back, we talked about no need to have to modify the code. You don't have to go back and pass a new policy, pass a new ordinance. We can handle this with a policy. So our policy may be a simple FDC policy for our and standpipe policy for our department. So it can be a simple one-page policy that we would do that says we're going to implement code section of the section number of the code, and we're going to do it in the following manner. And we have a couple of options. We can do, well, we can implement all at once, or we could do it in phases. So let's look at the options. We could say, you know what, we're going to just do all new construction right now. So, okay, so we say, okay, effective on a certain effective date, anything permitted after January 1 would have to have the locking FDC caps and standpipe outlet caps. Now, again, in new construction, it's not a big deal. You're already doing a huge building, a huge a system, so a couple of caps is not a problem. Well, let's go back to that existing one. Now I've got that existing one out there. So the existing building, only where the caps are missing. So you can say, well, let's wait 6 months later. Let's kind of get the first one going and put the next one in play. And that one would say, as I do my inspection, if I have a cap missing, I'm going to go talk to the owner and say, you got your caps missing. I'm going to do my public education on it, and explain to them the reasons why we need to protect these, and again, remind them of the long-term savings and not having to backflush the system after this one. Now, you may also want to work with the owner on a reasonable time frame. So it might be a seasonal business you're dealing with. It could be a small mom and pop shop that you're dealing with here. And so they may need some time. So you might say, well, let's do 90 to 180 days. So I'd rather get that thing protected now than never ever have it protected. So let's work with them on some time frames. Your policy can allow you to do that, where it's not hard and fast as an ordinance. Policy says you can work with people on the implementation of this in a reasonable time frame. So what are my next steps? How do I move forward this? I see this as a good program. It looks like it's a great idea. It looks like I can really protect my systems, protect my community, protect the properties, protect my firefighters. I need to establish a local policy. Look at that policy, decide how you want to implement it, and then what's the implementation date. Decide on the type of FDC, NOX FDC lock you're wanting to do, and more importantly, the thread pattern. If you have something other than national standard threads, you have some kind of unique threading system, some of you may have that, NOX can make it work for whatever thread pattern you need. They can make it work for you. Then you say, okay, I need to get the key wrenches. You can call NOX, you can contact your regional account manager. They can get the number of keys you need for your vehicles and for your personnel. I'd encourage you to publish that FDC policy and requirements on your website so everyone knows what's going on out there. And then if you need to, set up some training for your personnel on the use of these products through your regional account manager.
Well, thank you, Chief Kerr. We'll go ahead and take some time for questions now. Just a reminder, please submit your questions using the Q&A button located either on the top left or bottom center of your screen. And we already have some questions that came in while you were talking.
Great.
The first one was, will this presentation be available for download because you'd like to provide it to a department for training? And yes, in a day or two, we will send out each attendee a link to the presentation, and you're more than welcome to use it for any training you have in your department. If you need help with that, contact your regional account manager or us at NOX directly, and we will help you with that as well. Now, the next question is the authorized for the new code requirement only applicable to dry standpipes, the new standpipe code?
Currently, the code does say dry standpipe. So if you're adopting there'll be a code proposal to strike the word dry, because we have heard of problems with wet pipe systems with vandalism. So you get a hotel or a large building where people have gone in there and opened these up and caused some water damage to some buildings. So the code is going to look at the possibility of removing that word dry. If you're just adopting the 2018 code for the first time, you can certainly strike that word dry as you're going through the approval process. If you're just now starting to adopt that code, good question.
Now, are the key wrenches department specific? And we kind of went over that. This is earlier, but it may not have been very clear. The key wrench is different than your NOX master key that you use on your boxes. That key, the key for the boxes, is department specific. The key wrenches for the FDCs is universal. It is not department specific.
That's correct, Cindy. So you could use that key in New York City or Los Angeles or anywhere in between, and it'll work anywhere. So it's really great from a mutual aid standpoint. So I know a lot of us have mutual aid and automatic aid. So again, if you have the program in your area and you're doing automatic aid, you can get additional wrenches for your mutual aid companies that are going to be coming into your community, so they'll have wrenches as well. It's a good point.
Okay, the next question is, does NOX have a samples policy? And yes, we do. I would encourage you to contact your local regional account manager, because that is who you would need to go through to get samples. So we do have a sample policy, and your regional account manager can help you with that. The next question. We provide contractors with the appropriate information on ordering the required flanged FDC caps, or the ones with the swivel guard on them. But you're still having problems with some people ordering the non-flanged versions. We can help you with that. I would ask that you contact your regional account manager, because we can flag your account, or that anybody who orders under your jurisdiction will not be allowed to order the non-flanged or swivel guard protector versions. So there is a way to do that, but I'm going to encourage you to contact your regional account manager, because there is actually, we need something from you in writing to actually limit what your property owners can purchase, but we can do that. Okay, do fire sprinkler companies already have the key wrenches for access when inspecting and testing? That is department specific. NOX provides key wrenches to fire departments. If a fire department wishes their local contractors to have key wrenches, we require written authorization from the fire department before NOX will provide any local sprinkler contractors with the keys. So that is a department-specific requirement, and I'm not sure in your jurisdiction if one of your neighboring departments may have given them keys or not, but I would ask that you contact your regional account manager, because they can help you with that as well. Are the departments placing the key wrenches on apparatus only?
No, a really good question there. Some departments are putting key wrenches in the apparatus, and then for those that are using the standpipe, they're putting a key wrench in their high-rise pack, and then each firefighter would have one in each riding seat would have one in their bunker coat. So again, it wouldn't be every firefighter, it'd be every riding seat. So in the morning when we change shifts, you would just change the key over to the next person riding. That way you make sure that everyone has one. They're lightweight, they'll fit in your pocket, so that works out really, really well. But that's a good question. You can do, it's up to you how you want to do that, how many keys you want to have out.
Okay. Could we be provided enough key wrenches to supply mutual aid companies and potentially contractors? Yes. When we first sign you up for the FDCs and get it in our system as to your thread pattern that you have, your regional account manager will ask you how many key wrenches you need. And they also include, do you need any key wrenches for mutual aid departments that are coming to you? And you provide us that number, and that we provide the key wrenches to your department. We don't send them directly to your mutual aid departments. We ask that you give them to them, because we would like to make sure that they know how you have implemented them within your jurisdiction. So we will provide them for your mutual aid departments and for contractors at your request, but we do go through you to do that. Okay, next question. For jurisdictions that do not use a Storz type fitting on the LDH connection, is a threaded version available?
I'm not sure I understand the question there. I'm not sure. Threaded version of the LDH. There's not a threaded version of the LDH. I'm sorry. I think I see now. If you have a large diameter connection that's a 4 or 5 inch section that's not stored, then no, NOX does not have at this time have a product for that. They have the 2.5 inch threaded and then the storage for the large diameter.
Okay, and the only other question we have is regarding if we have any additional FDC presentations available for your use. And we do have a few, and we're working on more. So contact your regional account manager, and they can tell you what is available, or if you have something that we don't currently have, we can put it on our list to see about the potential of creating something along those lines. So we have one last question, and then we have a few more questions, and we're running out of time though, so we're going to take one more question. If you have any more questions though, or we haven't gotten to your question, we're going to send out answers to the questions we haven't answered on the call in a follow-up email. So don't think we're ignoring your question. It will be answered and it will be shared with everybody who has signed up. Does the key wrench have to be orange? Can we customize it to match our city's colors? We've never done that before, and we'd have to consider that. So we're going to have to think about that and talk about that. I would suggest you mention it to your regional account manager. We know where you're from, so we can actually contact them, and we will look into that and see if that is a possibility or not. So we have a few more items here, but we will send those questions. We will send those questions out at the end since we are out of time. So I want to thank Chief Kerr for being with us today. And is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap up?
The only thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time today. I know you're all busy today out there, and thank you for your time for attending this and for the great questions. I really appreciate those that are coming in. But I'd like to also encourage you in closing to seriously consider what you've seen today and consider early implementation of this vital program. I think it's going to be a really good program for each and every department out there. So thank you again for joining us.
Okay, I want to thank everybody. I do have one little follow-up point here. We are running a promotion for fire departments now on FDC video contest. We noticed on YouTube and some departments have a lot of videos that your departments have made. We are asking that if you would like to submit those videos to NOX, we're going to have a winner in January, February, and March, one for each month. The winning video that we receive will get to have a pizza party for their crew. We ask that the video be filmed in landscape mode. It can be done on a phone, and you can go through your regional account manager to get those submitted. They don't have to be like professionally quality. I make a lot of videos on my phone, and what we've seen on YouTube would be lovely. So I want to remind you to do that. Also, if there are any additional questions, we have a few more that have come in, please send them to us. We will make sure they all get answered, and the answers are sent out to everybody. Now, and so we want to take the time to appreciate your being here today. And if you have any further questions, I encourage you to contact your regional account manager. They are available to answer any questions and to help you set up your FDC program if you haven't done so already. Additionally, there is additional information at noxbox.com, or you can contact NOX directly at 1-800-552-5669 5669. Now, a recorded version of this webinar, as I mentioned, will be available on noxbox.com in the next day or so. As soon as it is available, we'll send you an email with a link. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next time.